This is just AMZN on Wednesday, January 9th, 2019. And had to think there for a sec which day it was. Um, pretty much all day, staying right below 1665, right underneath this line. We came into it twice early in the morning and then another time mid-afternoon and then late afternoon a couple times here. And there were some difficult times to actually get in bearish on this. So we'll take a look at the puts and see kind of what you could have done. But really the only reference you had was this line. Coming back in as a retest, but the option prices were kind of all over the place, and then there wasn't really a clear target to hold on to it down to. The only one I guess I can see is because we opened here, ran up into it. If you had shorted that and held back down to the low, maybe that could have worked. But then we didn't get that far here. And then these, we didn't get even very far at all. And this one, it came down a little further than this one, but the lows weren't consistent. There was kind of higher lows until you got to here. This made slightly lower low than this. It was a really difficult day to get any direction. And so, I didn't trade anything in this today. I figured it needed a bit of a day of rest, and we had a really nice inside candle, just touching barely into the downtrend channel here. And so really, again, it's just waiting. If this is going to be a little bit more of a pennant, it could go another day sideways, pull back a little bit more. Be nice if it's a bearish candle pulling back, and if it were to touch the 5, pull back that far and be somewhat indecisive, but a little more bearishness, and then to gap up above this, then I could see that running and getting possibly even to 1800 or this 1815 price we got here, and fool a bunch of bulls thinking, hey, this is the time to go bullish, and then the bears will come back in and it'll pull back and retest back into the low 1600s. That's one scenario. Let me see if I can sketch kind of that idea. Should do this. So if we do another day or two like this, come up, do something, maybe not that aggressive, get up into here, and then see it pull back again, back into this line, doing, kind of a V top, like we've had a V top here and a V top here, and then we've had V bottom, V bottom, V bottom. Maybe this turns into another V bottom, and then we bounce again, off of that, and then we're off to the races. That would be really phenomenal move, because we would trap a bunch of bears up here, just like we trapped a bunch of bears up here, when we moved up a little bit more, and then the bulls loaded in, and then all of them got trapped on its way back down. And I could see that kind of thing happening. I do want to see a little bit more of a rest in here, but kind of we'll see what happens. So let's clear all that. That's cool. I haven't done that tool in a little bit. All right. So from this, I didn't really see any good place to get it on the calls. It just wasn't there. All these lower wicks, kind of didn't really hold any level we had from yesterday. So looking at the calls, this is the 1675 call. It actually did have, kind of a low here at 12, a little more than 12, pulled into 12 here, and then actually touched 12 again here. That's really the only place. But again, it's not that it, let's see, what time is this? 9:45. So at 9:45, that was this candle, this candle. There you go, that candle. There was nothing decisive about, hey, get in here. It's holding some level. Even looking back at yesterday, it wicked to that, but it's like, why would that work today? There's no reason that candle would work today, and that's the one to base it on. So, the only thing is the low on the option from here to here was about the same, and just to take that for a ride back up into this price, but that didn't even happen. It just kind of moved up and then back down and up, and didn't get back up into these highs or anything. So it's really the only possible bullish trade, because you could have done 12 by 11 based on that wick, and then just flipped it out at 2R, then 12 by 11 up to 14, or maybe 16 to get 4R. But I mean, you're still just guessing. There's nothing really decisive or directional about that. Looking at the puts here, we pulled back into this 10, and I just like buying at a whole number like that. So you could have just done that had you been watching that pull back. Then if you had missed the 10, you could have tried for 11. That wouldn't have worked here. Hopefully it would have been filled here, but then again, flipping it out at 13 for 2R, doing 11 by 10, getting out 13 or 14, because it's not going back up here. And then the rest of the day, it really just lost a lot of that value until we got later in the day here. And again, just looking to the low, again, there's no reason to get in here other than the candles are touching the 1665 in here. And so that's really your only baseline to say, okay, I can get in there bearish. That's a good high point to get in. And so that could have been here 7 by 6. That should have worked again here 7 by 6. And that, you would have been flipping out at 9 or possibly 10 right at the end of the day if you were confident enough to get back up to this high at that point. But again, it's just guessing that something's going to go in the direction you want it to. After some bullish candles here, we pull back. Bullish candles here, then we sell off. There wasn't anything clearly saying, okay, now is the time. Even this having a small evening star reversal here, had you waited for that to form, you probably would have been getting in. Well, maybe you still could have done 7, or maybe this candle 750 by 650. That possibly could have worked up to 850, or I'm sorry, up to 950. So maybe that's the trade you did, just based on where these candles are, waiting for a pattern to form, and then getting in while that's happening. That could have worked. Nothing massive about that. You're right at the end of the day, so you're really going to be watching that and just eking out any sort of gains. So even getting an R, maybe even 2, would be possibly what you wanted to get out of that. The really small triangle, the tight triangle I drew yesterday, let's see, I think I did something like this, and then from that pivot, something like that. Now if we kind of expand that based on what we got today in pre-market, looking at that, and then come down here and do a similar angle, something like that maybe. So we're just getting a bigger triangle. It'll be really interesting to see, can we get a triangle that actually grabs this, pulls in a little bit more, pulls down a little bit more, middle. I mean, this really got pretty much the middle of the range of these lines here. Can we get something that goes a little bit further down, or comes into this level and stays range bound here to make a bigger triangle? Or I'm still fine with a bit more of a pennant, something to pull back a little bit more. And all this to say, hey, it looks like it has some bullishness. It could go higher, but we can totally pull back even more right here. We've made a good move. We've closed a gap here. We've trapped a lot of bears that were getting in here. They're stopped out, hopefully, probably, and now it's like, okay, more bears are going to load in because it worked before when they got in here, worked before when they got in here. This is a good level for it to sell off again. So if we do start to pull back a little more, if we can't hold the 1617 price or the 1607, really, if we get into these 4 lines again, it opens the door to definitely retesting this gap, and then possibly coming back down to low 1500s. As kind of the next target, and then kind of evaluate, because we've had some areas that have paused. Like we had a V-top here, this went sideways, had a V-top here, then it went sideways. If we have a V-top here, let it go sideways for a little bit, and then kind of get into a decision point. This one couldn't break out. It sold off. If we get into something in this range, we're going to be in these four lines here. If that were to happen and possibly break out, possibly roll down, and then again, your target is way down here because the downtrend is really still intact. Right now, it's definitely still intact. It's just a matter of, is it going to work again off of this upper range. You know, worked here, didn't quite work here, worked again when it got back in, worked here. It's a question of will it work here? And then on the bullish side, it's worked here, here, and here based off of, you know, some of these levels, and just lining up, you know, where we had a hammer before, some indecision here and rallied, um, you know, I see this candle as being very similar to this one. Just this move was much more aggressive than this one. I think I pointed out the other day. But anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. This is Just AMZN. Thanks.